Well, basically, what I think is, especially that upfront coming in at the front end of a contract bid, basically you're divulging who you're giving your money to. Now, how is it that they could possibly not use that information? That's one of the things that just seemed to get away from me from our first panelist, Mr. Gordon. Very dangerous.
Well, and as we heard, there's no actual valid use for it, and yet they kept insisting that transparency would be required and never addressed the harm that it clearly could cause, as our second panel of witnesses made clear.
Well, I'll just say, from my perspective, I pointed out during the hearing that I really feel that this is more of a retaliatory response to Citizens United Supreme Court decision, and that in fact what we're trying to do is show where money is going in a transparent way, as they have said did not happen in that court decision. It's just a terrible situation, and I'm happy to hear that there's some opposition to it on the other side as well.
And I think the Democratic leaders, both in the House and the Senate, that have come out against this shows that this really is an overreach that even makes very partisan leaders of the House and Senate and the Democratic side uncomfortable.
That's a very good question. I think as an American, you have the right to give money to any entity you want to. And, even if it is political, and I think that this really does infringe upon First Amendment rights. I think that this is information that does not need to be divulged. And I can understand through the process, as so many need to divulge afterwards, for the American people to see. I just don't understand why the process has to be put in place ahead of time.
As we also heard today, the question of what you'd be divulging, if a director gave to the American Lung Association and then the American Lung Association went out, let's say, against tobacco or in some other political move, you could find a director thinking he gave to a charity but violating the law by not disclosing it.
Absolutely. It's just very dangerous ground to be getting into. I found it, especially there again in Mr. Gordon's testimony, he continued to say that this was about transparency for the American people, and that this was a good thing for the American people to see, and that we were all about transparency. And yet I found it conflicting, because there were times when he discussed the fact that some things would be able to be divulged and some things would not. And I just don't understand how this helps the situation. How is it that we're fixing something that's broken? I don't believe that that's the case.
And certainly we saw that the best value for the American people is a maximum amount of competitors providing the lowest cost. And we saw no demonstration that this would further that. Just the opposite. We saw that this could have a chilling effect. And it's a great concern. We think it needs to be rethought.